Hello, this is John from landlordsjournal.com, and I changed the scenery a little bit. I got tired of doing this in my kitchen, so I thought I would do it in my living room. Anyway, we have a new feature on landlordsjournal.com called Ask a Landlord, and I tried to register the domain name askalandlord.com because I thought it was pretty clever. You don't see very many sites where tenants and real estate investors can, actually ask questions from a real investor or landlord. And I anticipate for the four of us answering as many questions as we can. And like I've told you before, we plan on having a call-in feature on our podcast as soon as we can get it together, where tenants, investors can call in and ask their questions. I started this about a week ago. I haven't had very many questions. I've had about 3, and they all actually came in yesterday. So it's been kind of slow to pick up. Again, I encourage you to ask questions. I know people are reading the blog. I do encourage you to ask questions just about anything related to real estate, whether you're a tenant or an investor, and I've been on both sides of the fence. So, and I'll try to get you an answer. Again, this is not legal advice. If you need legal advice, you need to contact an attorney. This is just some general advice from my point of view, or one of the other members' point of view from their experiences. Anyway, the question was, is a roommate responsible for damage to the apartment, in this case it was an apartment or house, after they move out? And it depends on whether they are on the lease or not. If the roommate is on the lease, then you're equally responsible for the damage, and you'll have to go after them to collect the damage. But if they're not on the lease, then you're responsible for the damage entirely. So it's very important that if you have a roommate, that they need to be on the lease, because anything that they do to the unit, you're responsible for. At least if they're on the lease, you're at the very best equally responsible for it, or the very least equally responsible for it. If they're not on the lease, then you're responsible for it entirely. So the answer to the question is, it depends on whether they're on the lease or not. If they're not on the lease, and I suspect that they're not, then you're responsible for the damage to the apartment yourself. And it would be very difficult for me to go after that person. From my viewpoint, they're not responsible. Whoever's on the lease is responsible for the damage. Now, you might be able to go to small claims court and collect that way. If I charge you $1,000 for the damage that was caused to the unit, and you paid that, then you may successfully go to small claims court, or you may go to small claims court and successfully sue your roommate to collect the money, if you can sufficiently prove that they caused the damage, so on and so forth. My advice is to document everything. Document everything that you possibly can. So that's it. Make sure that your roommate is on the lease. If you have roommates, if you have more than however many roommates you have, make sure that they're on the lease, because if not, and they do damage to the apartment, then you're responsible yourself. At least if they're on the lease, at least you share some responsibility for that. So make sure that you join us on our podcast each week at 7. We've kind of gotten off to a slow start. We've had some technical difficulties. Some members of the group we've kind of can't get our schedules together. So we're kind of unorganized on our podcast, but you can watch past shows. And we plan on having a call-in feature very soon, maybe late spring. We're still working on that now. But whether you're a real estate investor or tenant, make sure that you ask questions on our Ask a Landlord tab on landlordsjournal.com, and we will attempt to answer them either via email or on here. We'll probably do it both, but since we have so few questions now, I'm able to put all of them on here and on the blog. So be sure to join us on our podcast at 7 p.m. every Sunday.